welcome to Who's Number One. I'm Trey Wingo. Look, not all games are created equal. There is one game to rule them all. We speak, of course, of Game 7. Just the mention of Game 7 prompts us to face west towards sunset and bow in reverence. Game 7, after all, equals playoffs, which equals suspense, which equals the theater of the magnificent. Game 7 carries with it an unavoidable finality. I mean, there is no Game 8. Game 7 is when things get decided once and for all. Some Game 7s belong in the roll call of history, and that's what ESPN Classic voted on, the 20 best Game 7s of all time.
20.
And a ground ball, trickling. It is a fair ball. Gets by Buckner. The Mets will win the ball game. The Mets win. They win.
By no means were we gonna roll over and play dead. We felt we had a chance to win.
A very good chance, in fact. The Red Sox led early in Game 7 of the '86 World Series.
And as a hopper by the diving Santana. And it is 3-0 Boston.
Losing 3-0 right off the bat. We're going, oh well, here we go. Come back again.
You just felt we're going to win this game. It's just a matter of time we're going to win.
The key at that in the game was Keith Hernandez up against Bruce Hurst. The winner of that battle was probably going to win the game.
Fastball hitting to left center field. Base hit. In comes Mazzilli. In comes Wilson. 3-2 Boston.
In 1946 and 75, and then again in 86, in these seventh games, the Red Sox had a lead and were not able to hold it.
They went ahead on MVP Ray Knight's solo homer in the seventh and eventually won 8-5.
Now the pitch on the way. He struck him out. Struck him out. The Mets have won the World Series. The dream has come true. Coming from behind to win the seventh ball game.
19.
Drives to his right behind a Devon Peck. He comes up firing. He got the bucket.
Unaccustomed to the rare air of the Western Conference Finals, the Sacramento Kings missed 14 of 30 free throws in Game 7 in 2002. The experienced Lakers with Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal combining for 65 points, won in overtime, 112-106.
And I just remember different shots missed. Christie, air ball, bad shots clanging, free throws missed, turnovers. And it was too bad because the Kings were the better team.
Horry with a three-pointer on the way. He hits the triple.
The Lakers knew what they were doing. The Lakers were just cooler. They knew what to do down the stretch, and the Kings just couldn't hang.
Chris was shooting his shot well, but down the stretch, when the overtime period came, he got tired and he wasn't able to knock it down. Sack lived by the outside shot, and then he died by the outside shot.
Are you supposed to win that game? Were the Kings good? Yes, they were certainly there. I refuse to kill the Kings for that one because you're playing against two of the best players of all time.
You played the entire season to get the important game in your building. And if you then can't pull the trigger, well, I guess you did choke.
I guess I'm a little ticked off, but I also understand we should have done a better job, and they did a good job, so.
18.
This is just the epitome of the 8-man deep interlocking pieces, 6th man off the bench, ahead of its time, fast break basketball.
The Lakers' Frank Selby scored the last 4 points to force overtime in Game 7 of the 1962 Finals.
Jerry West could drive on anybody in the league at that time. Even though he was only 6'3" or so, he was an acrobat inside.
I played every minute of the game. I'm dead tired. It's hard to imagine fatigue like that, and to think you have to play 5 more minutes in overtime, it just didn't seem like that was going to be possible physically.
We played the Lakers with 2 great players in Baylor and West, and they couldn't beat us. So it took more than 1 or 2 guys to beat our ball club because we played so well together.
Red would go to one guy, and if he didn't have, he'd go to another guy.
But Boston, with Bill Russell, Sam Jones, and Frank Ramsey combining for 80 points, prevailed 110-107.
And the Celtics didn't make mistakes because they always believed in themselves.
17.
Could you get 2 more different styles than Magic Johnson, the Lakers, and Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons?
It's a 4-on-2.
The Lakers were this glitz and glamour team, this up-tempo team.
That's showtime.
And they just dared you to try to run with them, and nobody could.
He's going to play Isaiah Thomas.
The Pistons come in, the bad boys, and all of a sudden it's shot clock running down to 1 or 2 seconds. The other team can't get it off, 24-second violation.
Byron Scott and Bill Lane Beard mumped each other.
This team was tough. They didn't take any crap from anybody.
What they couldn't overcome was a Lakers lead that reached 15 points early in the fourth quarter of Game 7 of the 1988 Finals. The sprained ankle Isaiah Thomas suffered in the previous contest limited him to just 28 minutes.
He probably was one of the most courageous players that we ever competed against. I can remember him having this outrageous third quarter. He sprained his ankle. There was no way he should have played in Game 7, but he did.
Nothing surprising about Isaiah. I mean, like I say, he has a high tolerance for pain. A game of that magnitude, he was going to play.
We were both the devil in disguise. We were passionate about winning, but also good friends. And now I got to hit his guys to prove to my teammates that, hey, I'm not playing friends out here. I think it took a toll on our friendship.
He was scoreless in the second half, and Detroit lost 108-105.
2-on-1 to Scott. Scott all the way.
16.
The 1960s just produced epic battles between the Celtics with Russell and any Laker team that they met in the finals. The 66th, 7th game sort of symbolized the best of that period.
The last basket of the game for Boston was a Russell driving two-hand dunk on a broken play. And it went up by 10, and you figured it's got to be over now.
But it wasn't over. After missing 15 of their first 18 shots, Jerry West and Elgin Baylor found their stroke, and the Lakers got within 2. But with Bill Russell grabbing 32 boards, the Celtics held on, winning Red Auerbach's last game as a coach, 95-93, for their 8th straight title.
And it got hairy, there's no question. But it was a crazy final minute.
Neither team could get away from each other, and that's one of the things that made those battles so great.
15.
Gentlemen, start your engine. Oh, here we go. Game 7. It doesn't get any better than this.
Everybody in Toronto was convinced that they were going to beat Los Angeles for one reason.
Gilmore center pass to Anderson. He scores!
This is Toronto. This is the hockey capital. That's L.A. That's Tinseltown, and Tinseltown has no business beating any team that's from Toronto.
Gretzky with McSorley, 2-on-1. McSorley controls it to Gretzky. He shoots. He scores!
Well, Toronto fans booed Wayne Gretzky. You don't boo the great one, the best player in the history of the sport, and they booed him in hockey's mecca.
Sampson, back to Gretzky. He shoots. He scores! Wayne Gretzky does it again!
Gretzky's second goal gave the Kings a 3-2 lead in Game 7 of the 1993 Campbell Conference Finals. After a goal by Wendell Clark tied it in the third period, Mike Donnelly regained the lead for L.A. Then number 99 showed again why he was known as the Great One.
Gretzky in the Toronto zone. Gretzky, the wraparound. Oh, it goes in! They score! Gretzky has the hat trick!
My biggest thrills in hockey have come in Maple Leaf Gardens, beating Toronto in Game 7 in '93.
The Los Angeles Kings are going to the Stanley Cup Finals!
14.
The 1946 World Series is on.
All the folklore of the Red Sox had not materialized then. All right, they hadn't won since 1918. It was 20. It was that point. It was 28 years. But they were the team. They had dominated the American League. But as luck would have it, Game 7 was in Sportsman's Park in St. Louis.
Game 7 of the 1946 World Series between the Cardinals and the Red Sox was tied at 3 in the 8th inning when Harry the Hat Walker lined a hit into left center. Enos Slaughter brazenly set sail from first and kept on running, daring Boston to throw him out.
The relay throw was made to Johnny Pesky, and the folklore is that Johnny Pesky, quote, held the ball. Well, of course, Johnny Pesky was waiting for somebody to tell him with his back to the plate where to throw it.
I think Johnny got a real bad rap on being the fall guy in the World Series. I was on second, and everybody said, well, Doran should have been calling out the play, but I can't say that I did or didn't call a play, but 33,000 people yelling. Johnny wouldn't have heard anybody yelling if he did.
He didn't hold the ball. I don't have any doubts about that. He didn't hold the ball. Slaughter added to the Slaughter legend, or cemented it, frankly, by scoring from first. It's a great tribute to Enos Slaughter, and the fact is that it should be remembered as that much more than the idea that Johnny Pesky held the ball.
The best team wins. Well, you can't say, well, because of this and that, and alibi this and that. The Cardinals played good ball, and they beat us.
13.
Races on, Wayne Gretzky. Gretzky moving in. Gretzky's got hold, and taken away by Sergei Fedorov.
Gretzky with St. Louis was the great guy in the wrong place at the wrong time with certainly the wrong coach.
The Blues had spent so much money, made so many they made 90 transactions that season with Mike Keenan as the GM and the coach. And they built a team that they hoped, even though they weren't very good in the regular season, might make a run for it.
In Game 7 of the 1996 Western Conference semifinals, Detroit and St. Louis played 60 minutes without a score.
The Red Wings weren't yet the dynasty that they became a little bit later.
Down the middle, chance.
Been 41 years since they'd won a Stanley Cup. But with Yzerman and some of their younger players, they knew they could be a great team.
He lost it. Shane Carson for the game winner. Great save on goal.
They played 20 more scoreless and were in a second overtime when a gritty little bulldog known as Stevie Y ended it.
Even though Yzerman was a kid compared to the other guys on the team, they made him the captain.
You know, you look to Steve Yzerman for clutch moments in leadership, and he certainly delivered.
Yzerman picks it up. Yzerman moving. Blue line chance. Score! Steve Yzerman! Detroit wins!
It was really their first big step towards being a great team.
12.
He could get into your mind. You try to say to yourself, don't worry about Russell. You know, that's kind of impossible. He could anticipate, he could leap, he could stop you. The only kind of a ball player that Russell had trouble with was a guy like a Bob Pettit.
Bob Pettit's St. Louis Hawks went to a 7th game against Boston in the 1957 NBA Finals, and he responded with 39 points. Two Celtics rookies, Bill Russell and Tom Heinsohn, combined for 56 points and 55 boards.
They had great players with Bob Pettit and Cliff Hagan, and they had Slater Martin. They were a very worthy team.
Pettit was the real deal. 6'9", good build, fluid.
He was just smooth and had a great baseline shot.
Despite Pettit's effort, the Celtics won the first of 11 championships in 13 seasons.
125-123 double overtime. There are people, our back included, who will tell you that this was one of the great games ever played, and certainly one of the great 7th games.
11.
The Lakers were on the ropes and done. There were probably NBA sports writers who were already planning their tickets, for Portland in the NBA championship.
You sit there and you're all ready. You have your game story written. Portland Trailblazers beat Lakers.
Great teams know how to close the deal. They see the other team gagging and then they put their foot on their throat. And Portland didn't know how to do it.
The Trailblazers led by 15 with 10 and a half minutes to play. But while Portland was in the midst of missing 13 straight shots, the Lakers smelled blood and went on a 15-0 run.
Once the lead started going down, you could feel it. The whole, oh my goodness.
All of a sudden, 15 points became 13 to 9 to 7 to 4.
The Trailblazers were just rolling over dead. They were just flopping, saying, take me, go ahead, beat me, kick me some more.
That's a game where people were saying, see, I told you, Scottie Pippen couldn't win without Michael.
Here's Pippen, unleashing a 3.
He was brought to that team for his experience, for his savvy in the clutch. That was a big choke job, not only on Pippen's part, but on that whole team.
Bryant to shot!
The Lakers won 89-84 in the biggest fourth quarter Game 7 comeback in NBA history.
Once you turn it off like the Trailblazers did, you can't turn it back on in a game like that.
I don't believe what I've seen.
That is one of the pure chokes of all time. Just pure.
I think back and I'm trying to figure out how it happened.
It was a great 7-game series. They got down to Game 7. The Celtics were ahead, and they felt that they had the game wrapped up.
In Game 7 of the 1965 East Finals, Wilt Chamberlain scored 6 points in the last minute, including the basket with 5 seconds left that brought Philadelphia to within 110-109 of Boston.
Wilt just came alive. He was crushing people. I mean, he made Russell look like this college player.
But by the end, the Celtics have a 1-point lead and the ball, and it looks like it's going to be just another finish, just like all the other years. Except this time something happened.
Bill Russell took the ball to throw it in bounds, and we were all pressing at him. Russell throws the ball, all of a sudden the ball goes straight down.
The basket at Boston Garden was held up by these guy wires. Russell takes the ball out of bounds and throws it and hits that guide wire.
As we were leaving the huddle with Russell, he said, "Will someone please take these goat horns that I'm sprouting off my head?"
5 seconds to play, which is plenty of time in the NBA. The 76ers will be putting the ball in bounds underneath their own basket with a chance to win the game.
Here was the opportunity. This was it.
Greer's putting the ball on a play. He gets it out deep, and Havlicek steals it over to Stan Jones. Havlicek stole the ball. It's all over.
It took John Havlicek, then in his third year, known as a nice player coming off the bench, and made him a folk hero.
It's all over. Johnny Havlicek is being mobbed by the fans.
9.
Something always went wrong. Always for the Rangers.
It looked like something was going right in 1994 for the franchise that hadn't won a Stanley Cup since 1940.
Late shot, he scores!
As the Rangers nursed a 1-goal lead into the final seconds of Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
It was almost a battle of attrition. Who was going to survive physically, because they were just battling for every inch of ice.
Richter was at his peak.
Magnificent save!
And Brodeur was probably just getting near his peak.
Before you know it, as the seconds are ticking down off that clock.
Shots on target. They score! The Devils have tied the game with 7.7 seconds left.
How can fate do this to us? How can the hockey gods do this to us?
The game is suddenly tied, and it's not over yet.
Matteau swoops in to intercept. Matteau behind the net. Swings it in front. He scores! Matteau! 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 Defend Matteau! The Rangers are headed to the final!
It was just one of those brilliant classic calls. You can't make it up. And I think Stefan Matteau should actually change his last name.
Matteau! Matteau!
Because everybody says it twice. It's kind of like Jaja or Duran Duran. It's Matteau, Stefan Matteau for the rest of his life.
1940 is history!
8.
The 7th game of the 1969 NBA season, for everyone who loved Bill Russell, is the pinnacle game for him.
They were old now. Most of the starters were over 30. I'd say for the people involved, Russell and Sam Jones would be playing their last game, this had to be the most satisfying victory of their entire career.
One of the great long-running duels in sports history ended in Game 7 of the 1969 Finals, when Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell met for the last time.
Now, within 12 points, and the Celtics sense trouble.
This was the Laker team that was going to be the super team when they had traded for Wilt Chamberlain before the season.
Wilt Chamberlain driving on Russell.
Finally, they had the 3 great players together in the end, Baylor, West, and of course Chamberlain. They were heavy favorites.
Jack Cook hired the USC band to come marching in when the Lakers won the World Championship, not if. And he had balloons up in the rafters that were going to fall down on the floor when the Lakers won the championship, not if.
It was the most angry I think I've ever been. I thought it was disrespectful, and as it turned out, it was the ultimate embarrassment for all of us.
Chamberlain can't move, Chris. He's down there holding that knee.
Wilt's knee was really paining him. He came out and he put some ice on it. So when the knee quieted down a little bit, Dipper said to me, "Tell the man I'm ready to go back in." And Van Brennikoff said, "Tell him to hell with him. We don't need him."
Coach Van Brennikoff and Wilt did not get along at all. I think Van Brennikoff would have been thrilled to win a championship with Wilt sitting on the bench.
Everybody in this arena knows where that ball's going when the Lakers get it, to Jerry West. Now the Lakers within 4 points.
With the Celtics up by a point, one of the most fortunate bounces of the ball went their way on Don Nelson's shot en route to a 108-106 victory.
That's bad luck. And that broke their heart, and that cost them another championship.
Myth now has it that it went up about 50 feet into the air or hit the ceiling. It was about an 8 or 10 foot bounce and it fell through. The luckiest, best shot of about Don Nelson's career.
And time has run out, and the Boston Celtics have done it again.
It was horrible. I really wanted to quit. I mean, I did not want to go on. It was just too painful for me.
7.
Bottom of the ninth, the 7th game of the World Series with a chance to win it or a chance to lose it. That's every player's dream.
A deep drive to right. Ramirez on the run. Makes the catch. Tagging is Alou. Game 7 of the World Series is tied.
The Marlins were the one team that people in the game didn't want to win, I think, because it was just their 5th year of existence. The Indians had been the ones waiting since 1948.
The Indians are still waiting. Bobby Bonilla's 7th inning homer and Craig Counsell's sac fly in the 9th tied it at 2.
Bonilla launches one to deep right. Bonilla sends one out of here.
Forcing extra innings in 1997. The game went into the 11th.
Bases loaded, but I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, all we need is a sacrifice fly here, and we're the world champions. They forced the guy out at home. Now I'm really starting to look at my card. I'm thinking, my pitching, I got a double switch. I might have to do this.
But manager Jim Leland didn't have to do anything, thanks to Edgar Renteria.
He's young. Nobody expects him to do it. Nobody in the dugout was like, he's a high-priced veteran guy that should come through. Nobody put that pressure on him.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
Glanced up again, boom, it's over. All of a sudden, you're the world champion. I mean, I don't remember what I did with my card. I don't remember what happened.
A team pulled together almost on the fly, and they win. And Leland just gives himself over to the moment and takes this great victory lap that even he admits was goofy.
I mean, it was an unbelievably emotional swing in a matter of seconds.
Those are the reasons why you play sports. Those once-in-a-lifetime feelings that, are really indescribable.
The memorable thing about the Marlins, unfortunately, is not what they did, it's what happened after. All the joy and excitement that they created was diminished by Wayne Huizinga deciding afterwards to dismantle the whole thing. Usually when owners of teams have the talent together, they do everything they can to keep it. But for them to just take a wrecking ball to the whole thing, I think it was one of the cruelest ironies that you've ever seen in the world of sports.
6.
It was 2 a.m. on Easter Sunday morning, and there was a hockey game going on.
Fontaine, he's in. What a save by Mason.
And it wasn't a replay.
No scoring in 1 overtime. No scoring in 2 overtimes. No scoring in 3 overtimes.
It was the same game that started earlier that night.
Gardner shoots. Oh, what a save.
6 hours later, they're still playing.
Game 7 of the 1987 Patrick Division semifinals was the game that wouldn't end.
Fighting for it.
After 3 periods, the Isles and the Caps were tied at 2.
Bradley shoots.
But they didn't know it.
Score!
But they'd only just begun.
The Islanders by 1987 had not won a Stanley Cup in 4 years, but there were enough players remaining from their championship teams that what made them special still existed.
He centered it back. Oh, what a save by Mason.
The famous marathon game was one of the most frustrating that I've ever sat through. We progressively blew every deadline.
Sweeping in is Francis Getty. Jensen shot. And that's grabbed by Rudy.
The chances, there were so many chances on both sides. Rudy making great save after great save.
Here's center.
As did Mason.
Oh, what a save by Mason.
We will go to a 4th overtime.
The game finished so long after midnight that there was no point in writing a story anymore, and the entire press box just sat there like fans watching the game, knowing that nobody would make their paper.
How these guys can keep it up is beyond me.
I think fatigue played as much a role as Pat LaFontaine did in finally winning it.
Going in around the goal. Deneen out front, shoots, hit a stick.
comes to the line. LaFontaine shot. He scores! LaFontaine at the blue line here in the fourth overtime.
That was the most emotional series I've ever covered, and that was the most emotional hockey game I've ever attended.
5-5-5. Walk-off home runs are great, but to me, plays at the plate are even better.
One of my all-time favorite Game 7 moments in any sport is the 1992 National League playoffs.
Pittsburgh's Stan Belinda was nursing a one-run lead in the bottom of the ninth of Game 7, and the Pirates were only 1 out away from their first World Series since 1979.
They had won 3 division titles. They hadn't gotten there, and it wasn't going to happen again. The team was going to be broken up. Bonds was leaving. They had already lost Bonilla and John Smiley. They knew that this was their last chance.
We have now got Stan Belinda out on the mound, the winning run on second base. They are pinch hitting Francisco Cabrera, 1 out away from going to the World Series.
And then it's like, okay, we got a hit, we're going to win the game, and then you're like, oh no, Sid's running.
A lot of people told me that Jimmy Williams was actually trying to hold me up. I still don't know to this day.
You know, the slowest guy in the league, probably, on his last legs.
If the ball would have been right there on Mike LaBall, your eyes out.
Barry Bonds can't quite throw out old Bream at the plate.
I am standing with the hero of the 1992 National League Championship Series.
Francisco Cabrera, not only did the shock of losing the National League pennant in the wink of an eye take a little while to sink in, it took even longer to accept who had done it.
It's a good question where he is now, because, you know, he did as quickly as he came up, he faded away, and nobody's ever heard of him.
Braves won it, we lost it, and the rest is history.
It was the turning point for the franchise. They haven't had a winning season since. It was devastating.
Here in Pittsburgh, they joke with me concerning I was still out, and I just joke with them, hey, I slowed down just to make it exciting.
4.
Bottom of the ninth inning, last chance for the Diamondbacks, down 2-1.
Hey, look, who else would you rather have than Mariano Rivera protecting a 1-run lead in the ninth inning?
You know, I'll take Mariano into the ninth inning anytime. He threw one bad cutter, and it was to second base.
The bunt by Miller. Throw to second. Into center field. And it's 2 on with nobody out.
That was a rough day.
The 2001 World Series was played against the emotional backdrop of 9/11. Baseball became a welcome distraction and a temporary healing. In the 8th inning of Game 7, Alfonso Soriano's solo homer off Arizona's Curt Schilling broke a 1-1 tie.
The second he hit it, I knew it was a home run. But it didn't hit me until the ball landed, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I just lost the World Series.
In the bottom of the 8th, Yankees manager Joe Torre brought in his solid gold reliever, who struck out 3.
I think if you go in the 9th inning with a 1-run lead with Mo on the mound, Game 7 of the World Series 100 times, we're going to win 99 of them.
He's money in the bank. When he takes the mound, you consider it a win.
When Rivera came in with a 1-run lead, I thought our chances were rather dim.
Into center field, a good start for Arizona. And the 0-1 pitch, and he bunts back to the mound. There's a play at second, into center field.
Even when there were runners on base, I still felt as though it was over.
And a line drive, base hit, down the right field line, the game is tied. On to third goes Bell. And a little blooper, base hit, Diamondbacks win. They're the world champions. The Diamondbacks have unseated the New York Yankees as a world champions.
3.
Gather around, guys. I said, I got something I want to tell y'all. Y'all can jump on my back tonight. I'm carrying us tonight.
It's a blast! Deep left center, way back! The Twins go to the 7th game!
I was like, it's destined. We got to win now.
After Kirby Puckett's 11th inning homer in Game 6, destiny took her own sweet time in Game 7 of the 1991 World Series. Minnesota's tireless Jack Morris strung together 10 innings of zeros.
Ultimate pitching duel. Such great baseball because every pitch mattered and everybody was into every pitch. We could be playing all night. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning and you get no more coffee to drink.
And the play is to home. Out there.
And we're still going to be playing, trying to see who can score a run in this game.
Ty scored, 8th inning. Lonnie Smith of the Braves is on first base. Terry Pendleton hits a double up the gap in left center field. Twins middle infielders pretend to be running a phantom double play. Lonnie Smith gets disorganized. They got him. Only gets to third base. He should score. He doesn't.
You know, it's easy for all of us to sit here and say, well, Lonnie should have scored and Lonnie shouldn't have done this and he shouldn't have done that, but the only one that was running the bases was Lonnie.
And in the bottom of the 10th, pinch hitter Gene Larkin stroked the game winner over a drawn-in outfield.
Probably the brainiest play in baseball history ever to decide a world title.
For drama and excitement, hard to find any better.
2-2-2-2.
I kept thinking, you know, we just watched the greatest game ever played in this ballpark.
That game, because it was the Sox, was one of the greatest experiences I've gone through in my life. It was almost religious.
You know, Rocket Pedro, Game 7, it was a baseball fan's dream.
Nixon into right center field. Roger Clemens was rocked by the Red Sox for 4 runs in 3+ innings in Game 7 of the 2003 ALCS.
The game's in the bag because it's 5-2 in the 8th and Pedro's pitching. And then all this stuff starts happening.
Jeter flies into right, Nixon back. On the run, it's over his head. Into center field, Jeter will come to the plate. It's a 2-run game.
Here comes Grady Little jogging out to the mound.
Any fool ought to have been able to see that you had to yank Pedro at that moment. It was the only way you were going to hold them off.
Grady Little is going to stick with his starter.
Matsui gets on. Sada ends up hitting dunker into center. Before you know it, it's a tie ball game. And once we tied the ball game, there was that feeling on the bench that we were going to win this game.
In the bottom of the 11th, up stepped Aaron Boone against Tim Wakefield.
The only thing that worried me about Booney, he was thinking about hitting home runs all the time.
He kind of struggled from the day he joined us. You know, he's a tough kid. He's a winner.
That might send the Yankees to the World Series. Boone, a hero in Game 7.
That, without doubt, was the most exciting game I have ever been involved in.
We were sitting over there tonight, and it wasn't looking good, and Derek told me the ghosts will show up eventually, and they did.
Welcome back to Who's Number One and the 20 greatest Game 7's ever. Let's recap. 1986 World Series, Mets Red Sox.
19.
2002 NBA West Finals, Lakers Kings.
18.
1962 NBA Finals, Celtics Lakers.
17.
1988 NBA Finals, Lakers Pistons.
16.
1966 NBA Finals, Celtics Lakers.
15.
1993 Campbell Finals, Kings Leafs.
14.
1946 World Series, Red Sox Cardinals.
13.
1996 Western Semis, Red Wings Blues.
12.
1957 NBA Finals, Hawks Celtics.
11.
2000 NBA West Finals, Lakers Trailblazers.
10.
1965 NBA East Finals, Celtics 76ers.
9.
1994 NHL Eastern Finals, Rangers Devils.
8.
1969 NBA Finals, Celtics Lakers.
7.
1997 World Series, Marlins Indians.
6.
1987 Patrick Division Semis, Islanders Caps.
5.
1992 NLCS, Pirates Braves.
4.
2001 World Series, Diamondbacks Yankees.
3-3.
1991 World Series, Twins Braves.
2-2.
2003 ALCS, Yankees Red Sox.
The last zero on our game clock is about to click. Time then for the best Game 7 ever.
1.
I, as a Yankee fan, felt that it was my birthright to win a pennant and a World Series every year.
It was the Yankees. I knew that it was not going to be easy to win that game.
2-1 pitch to Nelson. A swing and a
People talk about the great games in the history of the World Series. There was no better game, no more dramatic game than the 7th game of the 1960 series.
Roger Maris came over, had trouble picking the ball up, and 2 more runs are in, and the Pirates lead 4-0 here in the second inning. A home run for Yogi Berra.
That 3-run homer by Berra gave the Yankees a 5-4 lead in the 6th inning. They added 2 more runs in the 8th, and then fate intervened in the form of a bad bounce ground.
Swinging a ground ball, hit right toward the shortstop. Oh, it hit Kubek in the face. It hit him in the face, and Kubek has been hurt, and all hands are safe.
After the Pirates closed the gap to 7-6, Hal Smith homered to give the Pirates the lead.
Smitty hitting a home run, putting us 2 runs ahead, and all I could think of is, we got him now.
And then Dad Burn Yankees came back and tied us.
The first batter the Yankees' Ralph Terry faced in the bottom of the 9th was a man named Maz.
I went to the bench, and I was just sitting there, and I didn't know I was up. Somebody yelled, Maz, you're the hitters. I forgot I was on deck.
And the first pitch was high, and Maz was a notorious high ball hitter, well known even as a 24-year-old.
I wasn't trying to be any hero or hit the ball out of the ballpark. That wasn't even in my mind.
And I called the wrong pitch. I called a slider. The slider forgot to slide.
Here's a swing and a high fly ball going deep to left. That's how you do it. Back to the wall goes Berra. It is home run. The Pirates win.
Mazeroski hit the ball over Yogi Berra's head in left field. And the Pittsburgh Pirates had won this thing. I couldn't believe it.
Just about the time I hit second base, I'd look down the left field line, and there's that umpire giving it this, so I pick up my speed a little bit to get to the home plate, make sure I touch home plate. Next thing I know, I'm up in the clubhouse, and we got the reporters all around me, and I missed out on the champagne.
If you ask me, it's remembered as one of the dark moments in baseball history.
So what really makes a memorable Game 7? Well, last-second heroics usually help, plus continuous ebb and flow. Your team is ahead. No, wait, they're behind. No. The ultimate test of a Game 7, though, is this. It was so spellbinding that your bladder set a record for waiting. Our own personal test is how ESPN Classic's rankings are assessed by our own resident second-guessers, the jaundiced jury of bombastic Burt Sugar and baseball expert Nick Acicella. Guys?
Best Game 7s. Nick, that means games in any sport where there's a Game 7, basketball,
any game,
hockey,
any level
anywhere.
of playoffs, yes.
Right.
Right.
And you know what? I tend to agree with the 1960 Pittsburgh Pirates, New York Yankees, Game 7. Not a series,
Not a
just
series.
that game.
Game 7, yeah, I put it in my top 3.
Remember, it was a comeback and a comeback and a comeback.
Yeah. For us Yankee fans, that image of that ball going over the fence and Yogi just running straight back to the infield, it's pretty horrible. I can't put it number 1. It's too painful.
And the Pittsburgh fans can make it.
They can.
That was their first win World Series since 25 before that 09. I have that number 1.
I got a question. 1986? Game 7? Why is that on here? Game 7 was a pretty good game.
Well, you see,
but the game was Game 6.
I do like Gonzalez's hit for Arizona, though, because
that's an absolutely great moment. Yes, where is that?
Mariano Rivera is out there and he's retiring.
Oh, they've got that number 4. That's pretty good.
I'm not anti-new. There are some good choices on here. And the hockey ones with the Islanders, that was exciting.
Mm-hmm. But 86 has got to come out. It should not even.
6, 7, they look alike if you hold them upside down.
Yeah, right.
This is great Game 7s, and occasionally a great Game 6.
Very good. Very good.
Well, that's it for this edition of Who's Number One. Thanks for joining us for ESPN Classic's ranking of the 20 best Game 7s ever. We'll be back to continue our countdown of the teams, the athletes, and the events that have shaped our world of sports. Until then, I'm Trey Wingo. Let the debating begin.